Today we're going to be talking about the future of Domino Vault. My name is Marty Leckletter. I'm the product manager for Domino Vault. A word of caution, uh, this is directional, this session in nature. These are our plans. We have confidence in our plans, but of course, like any plans, things may change. What are we focused on with Domino Vault? Well, I've boiled it down to these 5 things. We're going to take these one at a time. First is views and dashboards. If you're familiar with the product today, you know that it's decidedly about forms. When you create a page, we just assume it's a form. We assume that there's a submit button that goes along with it. When you put data items on a page, we implicitly create the data schema and structure for you. Well, not every application is a form. In some cases, you want to create applications where there are pages and the pages display information, right? So there's an element of what we're doing that is broadening the scope of the product, and I'm coining that views and dashboards, and we'll get into that in more detail. Let's go over to the far right. Workflows is a major theme going forward. So the product's got pretty good workflow capabilities in it today. You can do quite a bit with it. Is the user experience around those workflows optimal? Not really. And there are some things that are missing in workflow. So there's tremendous value that our customers get and want to continue to get out of automating processes. And we've been listening, and there's quite a bit that we want to do in workflow, and we're going to talk about that today. Now, integrations is another area which is key. The more that you can tie the applications you're creating in Vault to your data, whether that data be in some SaaS property, internal systems, an ERP system, CRM, the better. You want to automate processes, you want to pull in data, you want to write out data. This is where the value is, right? Works with Domino Apps. Well, Domino Vault is essentially something that you add to Domino, and Domino customers have lots of Domino apps. So we want this to be complementary to Domino, and we want it to work with Domino apps extremely well, right? So this includes being able to read Domino information, write Domino information, and many other things. We'll get into that in some detail in this presentation. And then finally, at the center of this diagram here, we've got usability. So this transcends across everything we're doing, right? So we have a team of dedicated designers that are looking at the experience, and as opportunities arise, every new user interaction that we're putting together or redoing in the product, we're going through great lengths to make sure that it's usable, that it's really a modern look, in that it's simple, it's intuitive, and pleasing to work with the product. So that cuts across everything that we're doing. So let's get into more details. So the next release is in December. And here's a list of the major things that are in the release. The first off is in the area of usability. So what you're going to see is a flattening of the UI. Today in the product, you click the cogwheel, and wherever you click that cogwheel for properties, you have a dialog which pops up. Well, instead, what we want to do is take the right-hand side of the screen and make that the properties panel. So whatever you have selected, be it the form, the page, an item on the form, you're going to see the properties for that item on the right, and then you can set those properties. And we've gone to some lengths to clean up and simplify the property settings. And then finally, in terms of usability, we've introduced some inline capabilities. So the example that you see here in this chart is with a select many. Well, why even go to properties? Why not just set your properties right? You set them right there. Type in what they are. Change the order. Make it simple, easy, and direct. Right. The next item on the list: corporate themes. So what we've done is introduced a way that an administrator can control the list of themes that you see in the product. Today, you see a list of out-of-the-box themes, right? In this release, your administrator will be able to define additional themes that show up that people that are building applications can then choose and apply to their application. These themes essentially will be CSS files that will be pointed to and given a name and then show up in the list. Right. The next item on the list contains search operator. Right, and this implies that the application that you're using the contain search operator has full text indexing in place. So for your services, you'll be able to use contains as one of the input operators. So give me back all of the elements that contain a certain string. Or perhaps you're in the view data page. Give me the information that contains this string, right? And this will also work with the REST API. All right, after that, sort by app specific fields. So the ability to click on your column heads and sort them. Specify the sort order for different fields. Right. Name picker. So this is probably one of the biggest items in this release. This is a new item which you'll see on the palette. Pull it onto the canvas and it's tied to your directory. And what you'll be able to do is type in any number of characters for first name, last name, nickname, email address, find the person, right? And then you could use that value in perhaps other searches. So now I found the person, tell me something about this person, or use this person in an assignment of some sort. Right, so that's a a major new function that customers have been asking for a long time, and that's going to play into workflow as well. After that, emailing attachments and the ability to set the name of the email attachments. So any attachment that you have in your application, so let's say you're asking somebody for a spreadsheet, it's some sort of investment proposal, attach the spreadsheet. You could use that attachment in a notification, send it along with a notification. Probably a more common use case is where I'm using the PDF fill service. I'm filling out the form and I'm generating a PDF. And what I want to do is send a copy of that PDF to the person that filled out the form, or perhaps somebody else. And you've got the ability to control the name of the PDF. And this is important in the scenario where you're using a template to fill out, because you don't necessarily want every instance that's created from that template to have the same name. So you've got the ability now to apply a name to it, which makes sense and allows you to track it with some certainty. Application history. So you'll see on the manage page now the ability to look at essentially the history that you're tracking here is the deployment and update history of the app. So you'll see when it was updated, who it was updated by, etc. This is not full detailed, this field was changed to this from that. It's not a complete version history. It's simply just a log of updates and deployments of the application. Map internet email to roll-in notifications. So today, if you're doing role assignments, and if you're doing notifications, you can map the ID, the user ID, or the username. But in many cases, you may want to just use the internet email address. So that gives you a little bit more flexibility with those two operations. And then there's a number of service error handling improvements that we've added to the product, and some bug fixes. One of note that many many have expressed some frustrations with is email notifications with anonymous use of an application. So perhaps you've got something where somebody's signing up for a program anonymously, and you want the notification to go out, back to that person or someone else, based on that submit from the anonymous user. So that will now work. There was a workaround before, but we fixed that. All right. So that's the December release. Let's go on to the March release. And here we're introducing this notion of a view page. So a view page is a top-level page, just like a form is a top-level page. A view page will have no data schema. It'll have no participation in stages, and it's not going to have any action buttons, any submit buttons, because it's not a form. It's a page. You can add content items, data items, something we're going to talk about, a new data grid, HTML fragments. You can add, just about anything you want to the page. If you're adding data items there, well, of course, they're, just fleeting items on the page. They're not tied to necessarily a source unless you wire them with a service. You can use rules, you'll be able to use services, and there'll be JavaScript API functions around the elements on a view page. All right. The data grid. Right, so this is actually technology that we're bringing in based on React Material Grid, and the focus of this is to display information in a grid form. Right, this is a difference from the table. The table that's currently in the product is really designed around collecting information, even though we've used it in many cases for viewing information. But this is, a view, and we're going to make it really easy to select the form that you want to use as a data source, the different fields that you want to use to display, to set, sort, and filter items. Perhaps there's a sort or perhaps there's a filter that's dynamic, is coming from some other value in the form. You'll be able to do that. You'll be able to add these data grids to a view page or a form page, and it'll have out of the box some behaviors, common behaviors, which will be important, such as when I select an item in the grid, open up the form. In the future, we're looking at expanding the sources that we can use for display in the data grid. In the initial release, it will be a form in your application, but it only makes sense to open this up to Domino apps that you have. Let me view data from a Domino app. As well as to be able to toggle between a view and edit mode in the grid, and then introduce categorize views with this. So, we're quite excited about this direction. And of course, when we have view pages, form pages in your app, you need a way of getting around. So navigation becomes quite important. And you're going to see new features around navigation. You're going to see a new structure, more of a single page app structure, which gets away from calling URLs and use of the hashtag and location of the different pieces that you want from the single page element for navigating around. With workflow, um, graphical workflow design, so a visual way of specifying your workflow, improved workflow decisioning rules. We need to make it much easier to do workflow assignments. The current approach with roles and dynamic assignments are a little bit too complicated. And we need to introduce the ability to specify reminder notifications. And of course, if you have a reminder notification, you need to tie it to a due date. Right, so those are key features that we see with workflow. We need to make it very easy to do task list sort of functions, like I want to see my requests, or I want to see the requests that I need to approve. And to do this, we'll build off of the work that we're doing with the data grid in the view page. And it's very important that we make it easy to track and log all workflow approval activity. Right, so a lot going on in workflow. This is kind of the highlights. Integration is another key area. Currently in Volt, you've got out-of-the-box connectors for other Volt applications in Domino. Um, you can create your own connectors, if you will, but they're somewhat challenging to do. So there's quite a bit that we want to do here. Um, and then, of course, with Domino Apps, there's a lot on our plate here. Updating Domino documents, dealing with Domino apps that are not necessarily on the same server. How do we, work with Domino rich text? Um, Interacting with agents, and there's many different scenarios where it makes a lot of sense to interact with the agents that you've invested with. And then finally, I want to get to, and I know we're just a tad over here, um, something new that we're going to introduce the middle of next year called Volt Business. So Domino Volt is for Domino customers. HCL Leap is very similar to Domino Volt, and it's a standalone product. Going forward, Volt Business will be the lead product for new customers, non-Domino customers, as well as the preferred path for Leap customers going forward. We'll continue to support and develop Leap, but Volt Business becomes essentially um, a package of Domino Volt, which stands alone and can be administered by an organization that doesn't have Domino skills, connected to your LDAP, your SMTP, SAML, SSO services, and initially it's going to be a Docker delivery. So a lot going on, and sorry for going a little bit long, but hope this was informative. Thank you.